Salutations. I don't really speak much about the Ukrainian war because my opinions about the matter are pretty straightforward. We should not be sending billions of dollars to the Ukraine every month, especially when our citizenry here is still suffering from the fallout relative to the pandemic. While Russia did indeed start the war, and as stark as reality can be, there are many civilian casualties on the Ukrainian side, and it is a tragedy on both sides. Let's be real. NATO has been poking at the Russian bear for over a decade in attempting to strong-arm the Ukraine into joining its alliance, starting with an undemocratic coup backed by the CIA in 2013. You might recall this being called Euromaidan. And this was done as a means to maintain the U.S. energy lobby's interests in that region of the world. The military-industrial complex wants to continue the Cold War after the Cold War ended some 30-plus years ago. That's a shame because our citizens really need help right now, and all our government does is spend money on wars to benefit private interests. However, someone asked me my thoughts about Rage Against the War Machine, so I will answer that question relative to what my thoughts are about that movement. In spirit, I believe it's a good effort. Spirit. However, the coalition, save for the People's Party, is a very confused bunch. They believe that Biden is a socialist, and they believe that socialism is funding the Ukraine, completely forget about what I said about the Cold War earlier on, and they believe that the military-industrial complex is socialist. And because of this, self-described socialists who are in bed with the Democratic Party are painting the coalition as a right-wing conspiracy group, when in actuality, being anti-war and being opposed to the U.S. military-industrial complex has traditionally been the domain of the American left. This goes to show you just how inverted our political climate is right now. When people on the left think that people protesting funding the Ukraine are supposedly right-wing conspiracy theorists, and when a vast majority of people protesting funding the Ukraine think that the U.S. military-industrial complex is socialist, like, you can't make this stuff up. Speaking from experience, I remember when things still made sense and when the left still protested NATO. I protested NATO. I went to Chicago with Occupy back in 2013. We put close to 70,000 bodies in the streets of May that year. 70,000 bodies. I got to remember the protests, people protesting overnight. I remember for some comrades of mine who took bikes from the bike police unit and chucked the bikes at them. They were rebels. Now look at them. And hardly a soul outside of those in the know remember that such a thing was done. And the libertarian crowd asks, where did the anti-war left go? The anti-war left was silenced and castrated by the Obama administration. That's where it went. When Occupy died, the anti-war left died with it. That's how I initially came up with Occupy. I came up with the anti-war movement. Holdovers from the Iraq War era, mentored by Cindy Sheehan's right-hand man, who nowadays is a Trump supporter, because he, ironically, is more anti-war than the Democrats presently are. That's not saying that Trump is anti-war totally. I mean, look at his policies towards Venezuela and look at his policies towards China, but relatively speaking, he's more anti-war than the Democrats are, and that's kind of a scary reality if you think about it. So this is how utterly insane our political landscape has become when the contemporary left is dutifully going along with Bill Kristol's project for a new American century, when that was the big bad boogeyman of the left back in the day. So here we are today, one hot, confused mess of a country, where the left is supporting neocon war endeavors and the right has turned on neocons, but think neocons are socialists. And because of this confusion, that's why we're having a hard time gaining traction of building anything substantial, because the neocons have taken over the left and redirected the left through psychological warfare operations relative to capturing hearts and minds, while they turn their backs on the parents of those who sent their kids off to die in Iraq after they bought into the 9/11 propaganda, sincerely believing that our country was under attack, when really it was W and Cheney who just wanted to max out their oil profits. Once again, I like the spirit of Rage Against the War Machine, but these people need a serious talking to by people who know what is what, instead of being misled by confused dingbats like Andrew Napolitano and Gerald Celente and anti-war libertarians who will become very pro-war should China decide to assert its sovereignty in Taiwan. The anti-war movement should not be led by people who think the United States military-industrial complex has gone the way of the Soviet Union, when the whole point of the military-industrial complex is to stop and subvert the spread of socialism and to maintain imperialist America's neoliberal hegemony. As far as the left goes, you can talk sense in who you can talk sense into at this point. Supporting this immoral Ukrainian endeavor is hurting the material interests of our citizenry severely. Our citizenry is being crushed right now due to inflation, and the chief cause of this inflation is supporting this immoral war effort. The left needs to understand that liberals can't be trusted, no matter how lovey-dovey and noble they may feel, making you pay for their war against Putin. And the people on the right turning against neocons need to be made to understand that the way the liberals feel about Russia is how political insiders on the right feel about China, and to distance themselves from anti-China sentiment, because we cannot afford to bankroll Taiwan just like we can't afford to bankroll the Ukraine. That's all I have to say about the matter. If you like my content, please subscribe to RED-Illuminati, like and share. Also follow me on Instagram at red_Illuminati, 2 eyes. And if you feel obligated to, please send me a Cash App donation at $Pella7387, because every little bit helps right now. God save our citizenry. This is Comrade Pella signing out.